Welcome, ladies, to day 2 of the Esther Fast. This video is about unbinding. God wants to unbind her and let her go. And this is really from Lazarus, but also I think we have to realize that we also have to be unbound from our past. And Esther had to unbind from her past to get into her new season. So ladies, if you're here for this and if you're ready, welcome to day 2 of the Esther Fast devotional. Today's message is titled, Unbind Her and Let Go. The reality is the other day I was sitting in front of my vanity and I think I was doing my hair. It was like nighttime. So I was like brushing out my hair after a good shower and a good deep condition. You know what I'm saying, curly girls. And as I was brushing out my hair, I heard, unbind him and let him go, right? So as I'm doing that, I'm like, wow, okay. And that comes from Lazarus, right? That was Lazarus. When Lazarus came out of the grave, he had all these bondages on him from, being, dead. They wrapped him up. And Jesus says, unbind him and let him go. So I'm like, okay, let's go dig into this thing. And I want to talk to you today because we all know about the story. If you don't know, it's in John chapter 11, verse 43, about Jesus bringing Lazarus back from the dead, right? Lazarus comes forth, Lazarus comes out, he's got all these bondages, right? But there's a part here that I think I want to just reiterate to you so strongly, where Jesus says, unbind him and let him go. The reality is, it said, he who had died was bound in cloth. And Jesus is telling the people, uncloth him. There's cloth on him because when he died, there was cloth put on him, right? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like what was so powerful in this moment when God spoke this to me was like, there are sometimes moments in our lives where we've already come out of the dead season, but we still have the cloth on us. And Jesus is speaking a word telling you to unbind her, and let her go. Because that previous season, you're still wearing the cloth of that. And I want to tell you right now, we also see right before we went to Lazarus, Jesus says, whoever believes in me lives again. I want to tell you right now, there is such a powerful move of God. When you believe in God, you get to live again. You get to get a resurrected life. You get to get a new birth, a new grace, a new hope, a new fire, okay? And you guys, I have to just tell you my story, because when I was younger and I just started walking in this faith with God, I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot of nothing, if I'm honest. And I didn't have a lot of hope for my life. I just had one goal in particular, and that was to become, get my degree and just become a physical therapist. But there was not a lot of hope in my life. There was not a lot of joy in my life. There was not a lot of peace in my life. And I want to tell you right now, God has called many of us forth, but we still are bound to the bondages of the past. We're still bound to the bondages of that dead season. We're still bound to the bondages of that past relationship, or what boy said to us and what somebody spoke over us and how we've always felt about ourselves. I'm trying to tell you, we may be walking into a new season, but we still have the bondages of that. And Jesus is saying, unbind her and let her go. But you got to be able to realize what's still keeping you bound, okay? For example, I was sitting here in my new office here recently, and I remember feeling insecure when somebody came up, because I was like, I don't know if they're going to feel like I belong here. And then I remembered in a previous season when I got my older office, the first office, I felt that same feeling of, I don't think they're going to think I belong here. Right? And then I also had to remember to the previous season when I was starting to get on YouTube and I was starting to minister, and I didn't really come from a Christian background, and I didn't have, maybe the accolades at the time. And I remember feeling like, are they going to feel like I don't belong here? And then I went back even further, and I remember being in high school and feeling kind of different and feeling like, are they going to feel like I don't belong here? It went further and further, and I want to tell you, there are times we are walking into new destinies and new moments and new paths and new levels of greatness, but our old bondage tells us we don't belong. Our old bondage whispers to us and tells us something from a previous season, and God has called many of us forth. He's saying, Lazarus, come forth. He's saying, Mariah, come forth. Rochelle, come forth. Brittany, come forth. Jessica, come forth. Elizabeth, come forth. Patience, come forth. Maribel, come forth. Esther, come forth. Candace, come forth. God is calling all of us to come forth and unbind her and let her go. Let the past go. Let the ways you used to think go. The way you used to interpret things and how you would act out, let that go. Oh, when you used to get your heart broken, you would run and get drunk. Let that go. That's not who you are anymore. Let those old ways go. Unbind her and let her go. God said that you are still wearing old things from your past. Even people have bound you to your past. There are people in your life who has kept you bound to who you were. God is saying, let her go. Let her go. Unbind her and let her go. God God is saying he's going to let you go from some past traumas and ways of thinking, past voices that have told you things over and over, your past way of living in certain bondage, in certain ways, in certain lack. God is saying, let her go. That was a dead season. That was a previous season, but that's not where you are today. So let that feeling go. Let that feeling of inadequacy go. Let that feeling of always being the tail and not the head go. Let it go, okay? Let it go. God is saying he is doing this now, but assist him with it. He's going to start bringing things up in your life that you have to question. Is this really me, or is this something that I have just been having on autopilot going on in my mind over and over and over? Okay, God says he's going to start helping you address these things, but you've got to be willing to not run from them. You've got to be willing to look at them and say, maybe I'm wrong in this area. Maybe that wasn't me. Maybe that wasn't the best decision, okay? God is saying there's so many things he wants to remove off of us from our old history and our old past. But we have to help him on this journey. We got to assist with him. We got to sit with him. We got to get alone with him. We got to listen to him. And the reality is Lazarus, his name actually means Lazarus, I think in the Greek, and it actually means God is my help. And I think that's so crazy when we think about how Jesus allowed Lazarus to go for some days. I think it was up to 4 days where he had been dead, when Jesus finally came there and resurrected him, and it was his help, right? And I think there's times we have questioned, God, why did you let me go through that? Why didn't you come sooner? Why didn't you come and get me quicker? Why did you allow me to go through that time and time again? Why didn't you come? And I think the reality is what we see is he did it so many would believe. Jesus let Lazarus go to death because he knew many was going to believe if they saw the miracle. And I want to tell you, there are some things you've been through and you're questioning, God, why did you let me go through this? And God said, because I'm going to get many to believe. Many are going to believe when they see the glory that's on your life. Many are going to believe when they see what you've overcome and how you're still walking strong. Many are going to believe after you say you was homeless, but now God has blessed you. Many are going to believe when you say, hey, my mama was like this and I don't know how, but now I'm this. Many are going to believe God when they see the goodness of God. And I want to tell you right now, we have questioned, I know I have questioned, why did you let me go through this? Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you help me? Why didn't you catch your girl right before she got too deep? All of that. But there are some things we've had to go through because many would believe. And I want to share this with you guys. This was a few years ago. I was in a relationship, and it was after about 7 years of purity. I have a whole video on this. I failed. And I remember feeling like, God, like, I've been doing this for 7 years. Like, I wish I would have had a little more help. I wish he would have caught me before I fell. Like, I had all of these things. But you know what was so powerful is when I shared that testimony, when I shared about falling and getting back up after year 7, when I shared that, God blessed so many people through that. There were so many girls who came out of the closet kind of like, I have, but I've been so ashamed to say it. Or I have, but I feel so ashamed. And God had allowed a lot of shame come off of so many people. And I realized not only did I fall, but it's almost like he allows me to fall sometimes. He allows me to go through things sometimes because he knows on the back end, many will believe. And I want to tell you that today, many will believe the stories that you began to say of God's goodness because of the things you've been through. And I want you to realize that you got to shed this stuff. You know how they say a snake sheds its skin, right? And sometimes we shed, like people shed, right? Like we naturally, even though we don't see it, we naturally lose, skin cells all the time. But I want to tell you this today. There are things God is wanting to shed off of you. Things that are shedding off of you, things of the past, things that you've believed about yourself, things that you've sat with over and over and didn't understand. God is shedding things off of you this year, and all he wants you to do is to testify when it happens, to testify, to speak about it when it happens. When God has shed that drinking off of you, when he shed smoking weed off of you, when he shed that whole situation, that situationship you couldn't let go of, when God sheds these things off of you, I want you to testify. I want you to speak about what God shed off of you, what he let go of in your life so you could go and be the best person he's called you to be, all right? I say this because there's been so many seasons of my life where God has shed things off of me. When I say shed, I mean like I used to smoke weed, I used to drink. God slowly started shedding things off of me, okay? I used to be so insecure. There were so many videos I wouldn't put on YouTube because I didn't want to show my missing teeth because I had some missing teeth. But God had to slowly shed that insecurity off of me and give me confidence. I want to tell you today, God is wanting to shed some things off of you. And just like he said to Lazarus, to the ladies, he was like, unbind him and let him go. I want to say today, unbind her and let her go. Let those old things go. Unbind yourself today, daughter of God. Unbind yourself and walk into the places that God has for you. Okay? And when I'm saying unbind, this is where you get with the Lord. And you say, Lord, what do I need to be unbound from? Like, what am I bound to right now? Because you might not realize it. Like, there's sometimes, like, I'm not going to lie, I just had like a crazy epiphany not too long ago in counseling, because we were talking and she was like, but is that rational? Is it rational to really believe that that was the underlining intention? If this has never happened before from this individual, and this never was like, why do you rationalize like that? In the reality, it was trauma. I was bound to a way of thinking from my trauma. And the moment she said a specific thing to me, this person is not so-and-so, she said it, I burst into tears. I started crying. Because I was bound to a way that somebody else was. I was bound to that, not realizing I was still operating out of that. And so I want to tell you today, there are sometimes we are bound to things in our thinking, in our hearts, in our minds, in our bodies. We are bound to stuff that can go dormant, that can just be just in our, it's not really noticeable to the naked eye. But when you get deep with God and when you get to talking and you get to expressing yourself in prayer journaling or prayer with God, you're going to start to realize there are things you're bound to sometimes. And I want to tell you, God is wanting to unbind you, daughter of God. This is a year that insecurity and that thing that always shows up, he doesn't want it to be there anymore. The thing that always has held you back, he wants you to face that so you can't hold you back anymore. All right? Because I want to tell you, like, sometimes the more blessings you attain, sometimes you get battles in the midst of it. And you may be wanting to walk into some new powerful things, but there's a battle of this old thing in your life. And God is wanting to pluck that up. He's wanting to release you from these things, okay? And I just say that because how this came about, I was just chilling, brushing out my hair. And God began to minister to myself about things that I had bound myself to, but things I've also bound other people to, right? I had some people in my life that I was still bounding them to their past, right? But then I had people also bounding me to my past or bounding me to old things of myself, right? So I want to encourage you today that what you do is you acknowledge who you're keeping bound, and then you acknowledge what's keeping you bound, okay? And with that being said, that is when you begin to decipher and look through and start to give these things to the Lord. Hey, Lord, this is a mindset that I have, and I need you to help me unbind from this. Because every time something goes wrong, I automatically think this is going to be the result, or this is the outcome, when the reality, God, this might just be a mindset I'm bound to, and I need you to heal me from that. I need you to heal me from that. So, daughter of God, I just hope that this message blessed you. I feel like it was a little all over the place, even though I had my notebook like right here, like literally right here. But like I felt kind of all over the place, but the key here, I think, is you go check out John chapter 11, verse 43. Go check that out and you read. And you're going to realize that all God wants to do is unbind you for his glory. He wants you to be unbound so other people will believe. All right? And so that's what you say to the Lord. Unbind me, because I will testify, because I will tell a friend, I'll tell a family member about what I've been through. Unbind me so I can testify for you, so many will believe. All right? And that's all I'm trying to do, y'all. All I come on here week after week trying to do is just testify about what God has done so many will believe, okay? So ladies, I hope you enjoyed this video and this message, and I hope that this is just something that you sit with and you just allow it to minister to you, and God begins to uncover things in your life that has kept you bound as well. And I'll see you in my next one. I love you, ladies. See you later.